And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com. Dan Strafford, Dave Lochran along with you on this Friday morning, getting you ready for an 8-game NBA slate. We had a live show during the trade deadline. We had your deeper dive. We had live before lock. Do want to get it here on the podcast. Favorite moment, favorite trade, team you think did the best on the trade deadline on Thursday, Dave?
I think the Raptors did a great job landing Marc Gasol, but believe it or not, the trade that I think is most beneficial for team success is Nikola Mirotic to the Bucks. I mean, when this happened, I had tweeted out, wow, what a perfect fit, because we know what they do. You get Giannis in the paint, leads the league in points in the paint. No surprise there. Just destroys team down low, whether it's in transition or in the half court. And you can't stop Giannis around the basket in the paint. He even hit 3 of 3 threes the other day, but that's besides the point. Now you have, I don't know if Mirotic comes off the bench. It would make sense, but still play minutes with Giannis. So you've got Bledsoe and Brogdon and Middleton, Giannis at the 4, Brolo, who is really the perfect fit they were looking for there, not some guy that just jams up room in the paint. And can't get outside to the perimeter. Now you've got Mirotic. If could you start him? You could, but I think what you'd really want to do is have him back up Giannis and stagger Giannis and Brook Lopez. So basically, you just get him some minutes at the 4 and the 5. I think you could probably get him up to 28, 30 minutes per game. What a spectacular fit he's going to be for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, it's an interesting question there of not who's starting, but who's closing, and whether or not they go to their own version of the death lineup. And I know it's not exactly the same as Golden State, but they go to a small ball where Giannis and or Mirotic are playing the 5, depending on who they're playing against.
Yep.
And then you get into an interesting, really, I mean, that's a spread offense. You talk about the air raid in the NFL. That's a spread offense that's just looking to open up the lane for Giannis and hope he kicks out when he doesn't have the path to the basket. But that's a fun one. I think that, honestly, from a setting up for next year, the Clippers did a lot of work to set up themselves for free agency this summer and potential trades in the offseason. The fact that the Lakers and the Clippers traded, and there are different locker rooms, right? So like Beasley and Zubac have to actually leave the Lakers locker room and go to the Clippers. It's the same arena, so it's not really that big a trade there. But some really, and obviously the Anthony Davis not being traded, and the news that he will play, and we do have him here on the slate. There is questions on whether or not Dell Demps and the management there would try to make him sit out. They affirmed that they will play him, that he wants to play, that they want to abide by NBA rules and make sure that their fans have something to come out and see. So things to keep an eye on there as well about how AD plays and whether or not he is fully on board the rest of the year. I do want to make mention we have a new giveaway happening, and want to say this at the top, then we'll dive into the slate. On February 15th, Awesemo.com is celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the website, and they want to thank everybody for being on board, both those who are subscribers now and those who happen to ingest the free content over there on YouTube or on Twitter. We're giving away a one value of one all-access annual membership, a $700 value to one loyal viewer. So if you're on our YouTube channel and you're watching this now, which we'll post, and you'll be able to see me and Dave in high definition, and you're welcome, by the way, for that. But you can enter to win by leaving a comment on this video. One, you need to subscribe. You need to like this video, then leave a comment. So for today's question, I'm going to ask you this. Which team do you think made out best at the trade deadline? It can be a team that actually made a trade or a team that held pat. Could it be the Celtics? Sure. If you feel like they're the ones who made out the best and now can run at Anthony Davis in the offseason, fantastic. If it's the Pelicans for trading for Markieff Morris and then letting him go, I'm hurt a little bit about that, but that could be it as well. But leave whatever comment you want. You'll be entered into the contest. We'll do this for the next few days leading up to February 13th, which will be when we draw the winner on Live Before Lock, which will most likely be Josh and Eddie on that show, projecting forward to that day. So you'll want to do that on YouTube. If you're on iTunes, listen, head on over to YouTube. Just fill it out. subscribe, like on YouTube, and leave a comment over there. We have a fairly balanced slate, or at least first glance, we don't have the high-level, top-heavy aspect of point guard. We have some centers and power forward spots that are of the higher price tags: Towns, Jokic, Embiid. Anthony Davis is on the slate, and Giannis is probable. Any injuries that really pop off the page at you, Dave, that you think are worth covering here before we dive into the slate? I know you mentioned before we started recording, Chris Middleton is out for rest purposes. Anybody else that you think is at least worth highlighting?
Well, number one, we kind of want to know, we kind of want to get an idea of who's playing from after these trades.
Yep.
And I don't necessarily know. I wish I did, but okay, look at Washington. They lost Otto Porter. When you take a look at this team, Bobby Portis is one where is he going to see big run? I mean, it's possible. Jabari Parker's on the team as well. I have no idea. So these are look, these are things that we really have to pay attention to. And quite frankly, it's going to be kind of difficult to get thorough analysis until we have a good idea of what their statuses, all of them, are going to be. With a couple of teams like Cleveland, not a big deal. With New York, we already saw the blockbuster trade go down, so not something to worry about there. I'll just how about Reggie Bullock out of Detroit? Obviously not a huge issue, but who's going to fill in most of the minutes there? Is it going to be? God, I really don't know who it's going to be there. Man, what an ugly team. Philly, Tobias Harris. This was Wednesday, so I'm assuming that he plays.
Right.
I guess they have Boban Marjanovic. They brought in Mike Scott too. Who else? And any other big ones here that we should talk about? Mirotic.
Right. Does Mirotic play? Yep.
Will Mirotic play?
He's dealing with the ankle, though, right? Mirotic was injured before he was traded.
Right. Yeah, he had been questionable and then ruled out of his last 2 games, though. So, is he getting closer? My guess is Mirotic doesn't play. But look, we still don't. We're not positive. We do know Tyler Johnson is going to start. And they said Kokoschko said start at point guard, which if that's the case, does that mean Booker moves to shooting guard, at least as a formality, and Tyler Johnson starts at the point? Or does that mean that Devin Booker is expected not to play in this game? That's another thing that we'll have to pay attention to. And then you'd mentioned Anthony Davis. I guess he's going to play. I know he's going to be in the lineup, but does that mean he's playing Friday?
Well, everything I've read is that he is going to play, and he's going to play normal minutes. That the Pels have talked to the NBA, and the NBA said he can't, go out for 5 minutes and then sit the rest of the game. That's against the rules. Now, what rule that is, I don't know. But I think he's going to play his normal allotment, and the Pelicans are going to roll the dice each time he goes on the floor that he doesn't slip and tear an ACL, or that he doesn't get elbowed in the head and suffer concussion, or. Yeah, there's
put his ass in bubble wrap, man. Seriously, he's already
especially exactly of all the players, of all the guys. This isn't this isn't a guy who goes out every game and toughs it out like Iguodala or somebody at the end of the day is going to be. He's paper mache, so they're taking on a risk here that is huge as they try to rebuild their team post Anthony Davis. But
it's significant. It's significant. And then just to finish it out here, Miami, no more Tyler Johnson. Does that mean that Dion Waiters is going to see way bigger minutes? Because I don't see Dwayne Wade playing 35 minutes a night. And then the last one, Sacramento. We saw that in-game trade for Harrison Barnes, for Jackson, for on-bench trade for Zach Randolph. But they lost a little bit here. Nothing really significant, though. So I think this team is probably all right. Alec Burks, he should make his debut here. I don't expect him to play a lot of minutes. It's not something that I would really factor into research outside of projecting his minutes, but I don't expect that to be a lot. The big thing here, though, is we've heard that the Kings really want to find a way to lock up Harrison Barnes, and Well, that's kind of interesting because what happens to Bogdanovich? What happens to Bjelica? You got a guy in Barnes who can play the 3 and the 4, and then you got Bagley who's played minutes at the 4, Bjelica who's played minutes at the 4, Bogdanovich who's got a lot of run at the 3. I know Jackson's gone, but and Shumpert's gone as well, so it should free things up for sure. And then Ben McLemore was waived, not that he had been playing lately, but you don't worry about him getting any run. So I guess Barnes jumps directly into a role with pretty significant minutes, and then my guess would be Bogdanovich backs up him and Buddy Hield, and then Alec Burks still has to get some backup work too, though. So does Bogdanovich strictly back up Barnes and Burks backs up?
Sure.
You may see like 1-for-1s here, and then Bagley has been getting more minutes. That game blew out heavily last game, so we don't really know. But that Sacramento team is another one that's it's kind of tough to evaluate right now. I want to see what Jaeger does with them in the first game, and I think there are certain guys that you can play it safe with, knowing that they're going to get the minutes, and some on this entire slate that are still very much question marks.
It's amazing to see, and I will admit it's my East Coast bias to a large degree, but the Kings are just one game out of the playoffs. This is a team that has played very well on the year, and you wonder from the scheme of the NBA whether or not they'd be better off losing more this year to add a higher talent out of the draft. But they've pieced some things together here to maybe make a bit of a run, at least at the playoffs. And honestly, you don't want to be the 8 seed. You don't want to play the Golden State Warriors in the first round. But making the playoffs would be a big jump forward for these Sacramento Kings. I do want to pass along, it looks like Ryan Anderson should be around for the Heat. And also Ira Winderman, who's Ira Heat Beat on Twitter, one of the better beat reporters still in the NBA, says about an hour ago, we're recording around 10 o'clock on Thursday night. Sounds like Magruder, not Waiters, will replace Tyler Johnson in starting lineup. Spoelstra said he wants to limit changes until Dragic returns. So take that for what it's worth.
He wants to what? I'm sorry.
He wants to limit changes until Dragic returns. So I guess keeping Waiters off the bench.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about Waiters starting. I wasn't thinking about that. But I'm talking about, does Waiters see 25 minutes regularly, which I think is still definitely a possibility. But it's tough to say. Good information you got right there. But at the same time, Magruder, I could see him starting and playing like 15 minutes. So I don't know.
Makes sense.
We're playing 40 minutes because that's how Spoelstra is. I don't know.
I forget each time. Usually we record a little later at night. I forget to keep telling you that I keep getting Fantasy Insiders alerts on my calendar to record a podcast. So take that for what it's worth. But I should probably delete that at some point. Let's dive in here.
When's the last Fantasy Insiders podcast we did? 4 years ago? 3 years ago?
Somewhere around there. Luka Doncic is our most expensive point guard, obviously. Oh, now I was about to say he is point guard small forward eligible, but he is point guard shooting guard eligible now on DraftKings. They've taken away the small forward eligibility. They've given him shooting guard eligibility. Take that for what it's worth. Maybe put that in the back of the brain for roster construction on Friday night. Drew Holiday, Steph Curry, Ben Simmons, Devin Booker with the Q tag. He has said he wants to play. We will wait word from Kokoskov on whether or not he will be in or not. D'Angelo Russell is an all-star, and he's $8,200. De'Aaron Fox, $72. We get into Bledsoe, Dunn, Murray. Zach LaVine with a questionable tag did not practice on Thursday due to ankle soreness, which has been something bothering him all year. Could elevate Dunn a little bit at $6,500. What do you got? Where do you see yourself most drawn to at point guard?
All right, let's jump into it. So Doncic, I will continue to play. Now, the thing is, is it a difficult matchup? Sure. Milwaukee, top defensive rating since the start of the new year, but they're also playing at a top 4 pace, and they are really playing at an elevated pace. I mean, they're also allowing, the most 3-point attempts. So this is not the worst spot for Doncic at all. A guy who's attempted 9 3-pointers or more in 5 straight games. And 8 or more in 8 of his last 10. Like, this dude's jacking up a ton of threes, playing a lot of minutes, and he's on a team here that really there's no real concerns about anyone really taking any of that opportunity away from him. I liked Tim Hardaway. I preferred him as a starter with some more minutes, but expected him to get plenty of shots up. He took 16 shots in 26 minutes off the bench. But once again, that doesn't make a huge difference because where are the rest coming from? Doncic still got 20 field goal attempts up. You're talking about a team that, their center rotation is Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber. God, Doncic to me, there's no real competition here. Outside of Tim Hardaway, you couldn't name a high usage guy on this entire lineup not named Doncic. It's crazy. And Trey Burke played 4 minutes. So he's doing everything. He leads the team in rebounding, assists, and in points scored now that Barea is out in terms of assist rate. And now that DeAndre Jordan's no longer there. So, I'm back on Doncic. And I know he's expensive, but the guy just continues to put up big numbers. And, until that stops, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon, I'm going to continue rostering him. There's not really much more to it than that. He's shooting guard eligible on FanDuel, 10K. He's getting up there, no question. But this guy is worth it with the way he's played. Ben Simmons, 8,400. That is an intriguing price tag. Does Tobias Harris in the lineup make a huge difference? I personally don't think so. I think 8,400 at home is perfectly reasonable for Simmons. When you look at a guy like Stephen Curry, he's 9K. I know he doesn't have the biggest games recently or hasn't had because, look at the guys around him. But, man, he is just so important to this team. Anyone else could get hurt on this team, and I think they could still win. If Curry got hurt, I don't think they have a chance. Like, that's how valuable he is. Even though they have KD and Cousins and Dre and Clay, Curry is, as we know, is more integral to this team than anyone else. But at the same time, like, is there any way this game is this going to be one of those games where Curry is needed? And I don't feel like that's going to be the case. So I probably don't get there. And, while there aren't a ton of high-priced point guards, there are a lot of good ones. There are plenty of good point guards here. D'Angelo Russell against Chicago is a strong option there. I have him right now projected as one of the top point guards on this slate. Drew Holiday, I don't have an issue with it, but it's going to be tougher to get there because of Doncic. We talked about Simmons. We'll talk about Booker at shooting guard. But I loved Eric Bledsoe on Wednesday, and we got pretty strong numbers from the guy. Even though that game blew out, he even played pretty deep into the blowout, which was pretty encouraging, I've got to say. But now that Middleton's out, there's just more opportunity for Bledsoe to get additional work. And like you said, Mirotic injured. We're assuming he's still hurt. Another thing was I was just wondering how many guys Alvin Gentry was just keeping out of the lineup because they knew that they were going to trade Mirotic. Did that have something to do with it? Maybe. But, Bledsoe's 1.15 fantasy points per minute without Middleton. I have no issues with that if you keep playing 35 minutes. 27% usage rate, 28% assist rate. He's a guy that contributes across the board. $6,700 on DraftKings to me is just such a good discount. And against Dallas, while Dallas has played significantly better at home, you're not really worried about this matchup. Bledsoe should be able to get. I don't see any issue with him putting those numbers up. We'll talk about Levine in a second. Chris Dunn was another guy that I was a little bit hesitant on, but said, you know what, we'll go back to the well with Dunn, just because this is the spot where if this can't remedy his woes, I don't know what can. We got a great game out of Chris Dunn. 41 fantasy points. He's still only $6,500 though, which makes him a strong play against Brooklyn. And right now, 8.5 point spread. But when it comes to the Nets and the Bulls and a game like this, that's not something that's going to keep me off of him. Really, Dan, you look at point guard, you could rattle off a laundry list of players. If Booker's out, I'd have a whole lot more interest in Tyler Johnson at that cheap price point. People I'm sure will ask about Jalen Brunson. He has played 30-plus minutes in 3 straight games. I don't see myself getting there. I'd still rather go to Tyler Johnson in an up-pace game. Sure, a pace-up game for Dallas too, but Jalen Brunson just does virtually nothing. And 30 minutes for him, you'd probably need 50 to get where you need to go at any cost. But look at this. There's more. I haven't rattled off everyone yet here, and I'll throw one more at you. The rest we'll have in a deep dive. There's so many good names at point guard, and I don't have enough time or breath to get through all of them. But one guy that Adam and I talked about heavily was on the deeper dive the other day was Dennis Smith Jr. And basically we made a point that he played only 3 minutes in the first quarter, got in foul trouble in his debut with the Knicks, then only 4 minutes in the third quarter. Really strange. Still played 26 minutes against Memphis. None of that makes any sense. There's no reason he should only be playing 4 minutes in the second quarter. We expected him to get up to around 33 minutes. He played 40 minutes in that game. Will he play 40 minutes? I'm not saying that, but Dennis Smith Jr. got up 25 shots, Dan, and played 40 minutes. I loved him at 5,700 against Detroit. In that last game, he's facing Detroit on the road again. I love him just as much here. Obviously, we'll have to see what other value looks like. A different slate, even though same matchup, same price, can change things. But there's no reason for David Fizdale not to give him a lot of minutes and a lot of opportunity at the point guard position.
I muted myself. There it is.
I had to check to see if I fell off.
No.
Usually you'll have some silence, but that was long silence.
that was a long one. Couple of things. One, the injuries in the Knicks backcourt even further point to Dennis Smith Jr. just having at least 35 minutes here. I do want to point out, and I was surprised by this, over the last 10 games, the team with the highest pace in the NBA, do you know that off the top of your head?
Over what's
the last 10 games?
Brooklyn Nets?
Yeah, the Brooklyn Nets at 105.10.
Of course I know that, bruh.
And so what's interesting is you tie that with over the past 10 games, highest usage, and you have D'Angelo Russell in the top 11 at 30.8. You pointed out him specifically at 8-something. That's a price point for me with D'Angelo Russell I would typically stay away from. But it does seem as though that it's not that far off. And depending on roster construction, the way everything comes together, Russell may be a little bit more in my plans here than I may have thought from when we first started recording the podcast at 8.2 to be specific about that price point.
Keep in mind, it's also really going to benefit Chicago, right? Because it massive pays us, but so it helps guys like Chris Dunn. And as we get to the next position, guys like Zach LaVine as well, because the pace differential here has got to be like 6 possessions. So you should see 3-4 additional possessions, which is significant in basketball for this Bulls team, and that's something to consider for sure.
All right, let's go to shooting guard next, where we do have Doncic, Holiday, and Curry still eligible there. You have Brad Beal at 8,800. Is this a 40.5 usage for him? A 50? Like Porter's gone. I know you mentioned Portis could be in, but is this a game where Beal's taking 25, 30 shots and has the ball in his hands at all times?
It certainly could be. Will it be? I don't know. That's a tougher question to answer. I think with Bradley Beal, he is. I mentioned this. I think he's played like 18 games since Wall's been out.
Yep.
He has 40 or more fantasy points in all but 2 of them. But I think he's crossed 50 fantasy points like 2 or 3 times, maybe 3 times. So not much volatility here. In cash games, that's good. In tournaments, that's not great. 8,800 Bradley Beal against Cleveland. I have no issues with it whatsoever. It is a pretty significant pace down spot. I have him right now, if you're working price tag into it, I do have him behind Doncic. I have him slightly behind D'Angelo Russell because of the price point. But I do think Beal is a fine play. Now, I want to see what happens with Devin Booker.
Yep.
As a tournament option, he would be very much in play. You're getting him $500 cheaper than Beal, basically the same price as D'Angelo Russell. I mean, that's going to bring in some interest for sure. But we've said it. Remember, we did this. We've been doing this podcast for like 5-6 seasons now. There were years where small forward and shooting guard were just dismal, even with multi-position eligibility. When they took it away, it was even worse. But without it, it was terrible. Now it feels like every night in that 8K to 9K price range, you've got 5 guys that could go off and be in tournament winning lineups. And then you've got guys like Zach LaVine against Brooklyn. I mean, really like this spot for LaVine. And he's still sub 7K on DraftKings. He's coming off a huge game, one of his best games in a while. His assist rate has and will be down with Chris Dunn in the lineup. I know he had a 7-assist game last time out, but still, he's getting up a ton of shots. And once again, pace up spot is a beautiful thing. So when you're looking at a team like the Bulls and saying, okay, they play at a bottom 10 pace, might be a bottom 7 pace, and now you have Zach LaVine, who, to be fair, since Dunn and Markkanen came into the picture healthy, it hasn't been the best run for him.
Yep.
But it also isn't one where you're ignoring him at that price. I mean, when you get the discount like that, I'm taking it. And I think that LaVine against the Brooklyn team, like you said, last 10 games, top 10 or top pace in the league since the start of 2019. They're second in pace behind only the Thunder. And Zach LaVine is still averaging over a fantasy point per minute over the last month and a half. So it's not like he's been bad. He still has a 30% usage rate over that span. It's the assist rate that's come down quite a bit, and that hurts him. But if you're getting up, I'd be surprised, put it this way, I'd be surprised if LaVine attempted less than 20 shots in this game.
Anybody else you want to highlight here at shooting guard? You have the likes of in Oubre. If Devin Booker's out, don't know if he is intriguing to you. You get down to some of the Denver shooting guard eligible guys, the Bogdanoviches of the world for Sacramento. Anybody on the cheaper end of the spectrum that piques your interest?
Yeah, a couple. Tim Hardaway, I'll go back to. I don't have an issue with that. Efficiency could be a problem, but you know what? Sometimes you've just got to run that risk. And when you look at last game, he did pretty much exactly what we expected, except I thought he might play a few more minutes, might be in the starting lineup. But he was the first guy off the bench, played 26 minutes, got up 16 shots in 26 minutes. They need him as that guy. And the biggest thing is where you could have argued that he was the third option, the third scoring option on this team between, obviously Luka Doncic and then Harrison Barnes. Well, now Harrison Barnes is gone and Porzingis ain't playing this season. So you've got Brunson and Burke and Devin Harris and Brokoff. And I mean, if you want to include Justin Jackson and Finney Smith and Powell and Kleba and Zach Randolph and Nowitzki and Mesri and like, dude, this team is the shots are just open for the taking. And I expect Hardaway to see a ton of work. Even if he's inefficient, they're just going to let him chuck it. Why wouldn't you? Even a stickler like Carlisle, I still expect to let him run. And 4,900 to me, he is still unbelievably discounted given the fact that he can get up 20. I wouldn't be surprised if him and Doncic both attempted 20 shots in this game. So I like him quite a bit. Aside from that, when you're looking at other value, Josh Richardson in a big pace up spot, it's sketchy. Him and Winslow both, I think you could consider. Not huge on them, but I expect Richardson to get 35 minutes here. And then if you're looking to get off the reservation, Dwayne Wade probably plays 28 minutes against the Kings. It's hard. It's really hard for me to say which one of these guys is going to get it done. But one of them I expect to. One of these guards. They have to against Sacramento. Unless this game washes out early, there's no reason to think that wouldn't be the case. So plenty here, Dan. And you know what? Dion Waiters is 3,900. I get it's a massive risk, but in tournaments, that's a risk that I'm willing to take at low percentage or low exposure. Because if Waiters comes out and possibly plays 28, 29 minutes at 3,900, you're going to be in pretty good shape. Oh, and one more guy. I told you, this is a crazy slate just because of all the moves. And we still pay close attention to the starting lineups and what these coaches say and what we get throughout the day. It's going to be really important, like specifically for someone, say, like Luke Kennard.
Sure.
Terribly ugly player in terms of his game.
Mr. and Mrs. Kennard do not like what you just said about their son, but go on.
I said terribly ugly in terms of his game.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we knew what you meant. That's fine.
But he's facing the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
Does he step in because we've seen it before. Does he step in and happen to get like a ton of run, or is it? Oh God!
Please. Wait. I was going to ask you if you were able to pronounce.
I think it's McKeeluk.
I think you're right.
Damn it! I think it's McKeeluk.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
You can look it up.
I am, but I'm pretty sure you nailed it. Like it's impressive.
Yaroslav McKeeluk, I think. I usually make sure to come prepared with that, but that is a tough one.
McKeeluk. Yeah, you nailed it. Well done.
All right. I'm so tempted to say Michael Chuck with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Just Americanize the hell out of it.
Big time. I see him like, oh, Stephen Michael Chuck. But does he play? Does he get
Stephen Michael Chuck works at Foot Locker in Boise.
Exactly. So I think when we talk about certain spots where you may just want to avoid unless we get like definitive clarification, McKeeluk and the Kennard scenario probably worth staying away from, unless we just don't have the value. You see what I'm saying? Certain spots,
absolutely.
Like, I think I can probably get away with not getting burned by not having either of these guys in my lineup, and I expect there to be enough value.
Listen, Dave said it twice already, so I hope you understand how important it is on Friday. We say no. Oh, you have said that twice as well. Well done. This is
McKeeluk. I think it's McKee, right? McKeeluk.
I have Basketball Reference up still. It is
Mikhailuk.
Sviatoslav Mikhailuk.
Not an easy one.
Svi is what apparently he goes by with his friends. There's news. There's going to be news all day on who's playing what minutes, and we're probably going to get even news leading up to lock. So if this is a slate you want to play, be aware that you need to be around, and you just need to be refreshing Twitter and refreshing Slack chat if you're a member of Awesemo.com, and staying on top of it, because if you want to sort of set a lineup at 4:00 and hope for the best, it's not going to turn out well, which is never the idea with NBA, but even more so on a day like this where there's just going to be so many moving pieces. I wouldn't doubt we see some buyouts too from some of these teams. So you're going to see some of these veteran players bought out as the day goes on. Let's go to small forward next. You have Giannis at the top, KD, Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, and we drop quickly to a guy like Buddy Hield at 6,600, who, while the Sacramento Kings have had a nice run, he's had a nice run as well. He's been playing fairly well of late. Wiggins coming off a big game on Thursday night. He's at 6K. Kelly Oubre, I mentioned earlier. Josh Jackson had the big game for Phoenix with Devin Booker out. Looks like Booker will play, but these are two guys to keep in mind as we head into Friday's slate. And then you have somebody like an Otto Porter Jr. with, depending on how his minutes come to play here, a matchup with Brooklyn, what he can do. What do you got at small forward? Doesn't seem as deep at shooting guard, but does have some pieces we probably like.
All right. By the way, OKC covered. Good stuff. Good stuff.
I got LeBron over
I
points.
know. I was just going to say, you got the LeBron over on that. And the wild thing is that game ended pretty wildly. I don't know if you
I'm reading Twitter. I haven't seen it yet as of yet.
Yeah. Rondo hit a fadeaway jumper to win the game. Irving hit one with, I think 11 seconds left. Horford blocked the shot on Ingram. I didn't see it. I was watching. I was following along. Rondo rebounds it, fadeaway jumper. Wild.
Oh, that was nuts. I just saw it. Yeah.
That's insane. That's just insane. And LeBron had a monster game. He always does have those games when him and his team get embarrassed.
Oh yeah, it's angry LeBron. Yeah, that's yeah, totally.
Angry LeBron is good LeBron. All right, what are we at? Small forward?
Yes, sir.
All right, yeah. Giannis Antetokounmpo. This is so. Let's be clear here. Looking at the rest of the slate, you have on DraftKings, you have Towns, Jokic, Embiid, Davis, and Antetokounmpo above 10K.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got 5 of them above 10K. Include Curry, Durant, Holiday, and Doncic. Those are all the guys above 9K on FanDuel. And I like to do this just to see where priorities are early on. Obviously we'll run crunches and break it down a little bit more in depth than this. But On FanDuel, you have Drummond, Doncic, Jokic, Towns, Embiid, Giannis, and Davis all above 10K. So what is that? Seven guys. And then above that 9K mark, you've got Griffin, Curry, Simmons, Holiday, Beal, and Durant. There are certain ones I think you can say, okay, I don't think we need to go there. But Giannis, to me, is I mean, first of all, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with Davis. Like, he's cheaper than Giannis on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's $1,000 more expensive. That's a pretty easy decision. But does he, when they say, okay, he has to play full minutes, I feel like, all right, fine, he'll play 28 minutes,
right?
30. I don't know. It's such a good spot for him too against the Minnesota team, dragging on the second of a back-to-back. Davis, to me, I think unless we hear otherwise, unless we get a firm idea, probably have to reserve for tournaments. But Giannis, I really like here. I mean, not to say that Middleton makes a huge difference, but you take whatever you can get, right? I mean, if Middleton's going to be out and he's going to be replaced by someone that, is clearly a lower usage player. I mean, look at who they have. Was it going to be Sterling Brown or Tony Snell or something? None of those guys that you're like, oh, wow, yeah, they can definitely fill Middleton's shoes. No, of course not. So I would expect Giannis to still benefit from this, maybe slightly higher usage, but it doesn't really matter. I've been trying to emphasize this because Harden's been so good, and we forget about Giannis, but since Paul went out until he returned, Giannis was still averaging 1 3/4 fantasy points per minute. So he was still smashing. He was still really good. But one, he doesn't play the same minutes normally as James Harden, and that takes away from him. And two, his 33% usage rate isn't a 46% usage rate, and his assist rate also isn't 100 like Harden's, although he's rebounding at 20% over the last month and a half, which is pretty fantastic. And I expect this game to stay competitive. His usage without Middleton's 35%. Assist rate, I found this really interesting. His assist rate with Middleton off this year in 605 minutes, 38%. Rebounding, not that this makes a big, rebound, not that makes you 20% per minute, 1.77. So you're talking about 35% usage, 20% rebounding, 38% assist, 1 3/4, 1.77 fantasy points per minute. Just flat out elite, man. And Middleton on or off, I really don't care. It doesn't really matter to me. Although that assist rate seemingly, goes up quite a bit, which is a little bit weird. Giannis is perfectly good here. I like him. He, 31 minutes last game, actually played deeper into that game than he should have given the blowout. But they've been involved in a lot of blowouts lately. This one should not be a blowout. I don't expect that to be the case. Right now, they're 8-point favorites, but forget trying to predict that. Dallas has played well enough at home. I actually like them to cover here for what it's worth. So throw Giannis on the board for sure. We talked about Simmons. I'm not getting the Butler, and we'll see what the deal is with Tobias Harris in terms of how that affects everyone else. The truth is he might not be Anthony Davis usage, but it's definitely higher than Mike Muscala or Wilson Chandler, right? Or Jonah Bolden. So it's something to consider. We talked about Josh Richardson, Otto Porter for Chicago. This fascinates me, and I'll tell you why. We take a look at their team. Now, number one, does Otto Porter play? I don't know. If he does, I would expect him to be out or to be playing 30-plus minutes easily. And yes, he's going to be alongside Levine and Markkanen and such. But aside from that, like, was it Hutchinson's out as well? So is it Wayne Selden? I mean, why bother? They're down so many players at the wing and at the power forward position, and they just got rid of Otto Porter and Jabari Parker. Granted, Porter playing minutes at the 5, but this means you have to shift guys down because Wendell Carter Jr. is out as well, and Robin Lopez is expected to be bought out. It's reasonable to assume that if Porter plays, he plays a lot of minutes, and he's only $5,800 on DraftKings at a relatively weak position. Even $6,900 on FanDuel, I think is totally fine. So keep that in mind. Pay close attention to that. Let's see where it goes throughout the day. Not a ton of value here. Not a lot of cheat guys that I'm really on right now. Finney Smith, probably plays another 33, 34 minutes. I think he probably does. Even with Justin Jackson on the team, I don't know how much of a difference that makes. It's not like he's much better than DFS. So does Finney Smith get the minutes? Is he sub 4K? Yes, yes. Do you feel good about him? No, obviously not. But if you're deciding between like him and Luke Kennard, I'd rather go with him because with Kennard, there's a definite possibility that he doesn't see those minutes. At least with Finney Smith, we know that in these spots he has seen a lot of minutes before, and that's somewhat encouraging.
Who the hell do the Bulls have to play? Like I didn't realize that Hutchinson's out, Valentine's out. You have Lopez probably getting bought out. Like they have no one on this roster.
Right. Which is why Porter plays, if Porter plays, how does he not? Like you're not going to play Zach LaVine at the 3. That's a silly idea.
Get some Raul Alkins in your life.
Like Wayne Selden has been playing huge minutes. He had 9 fantasy points in 35 minutes the other day. That's actually spectacularly bad. And if you look at his headshot, I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but he looks like a gray wolf. Look at his eyes. Check those. Does he not look like he's staring into your soul?
Right. Let me hold on.
He's on DraftKings. It looks like he's staring into.
Holy! He looks like he's from the vampire movie. Twilight. There it is. Twilight. Yep.
Yeah. Or from True Blood. But
right, we can keep it a little bit more in our demo. That's fine.
Yeah, both were terrible.
But I got sucked into True Blood.
I did too.
Bad pun. Bad pun.
Oh no, great pun. Accidental, but fantastic. The only other guy is Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot.
Mm-hmm.
He'll play some minutes, but I know they're not trying to win games per se, but you're not going to get Otto Porter on the team and like just run TLC and Selden heavy minutes while he plays 15. I don't care if you're trying to integrate him into the offense or not. Very much something to keep an eye on.
All right, let's talk power forward next. And we have Giannis here again. Obviously, AD, you've already touched down to a large extent. Not much to break down. If we hear he's playing a normal allotment of minutes at 11-2, upsides there in a matchup with Minnesota. Obviously, you have Durant against Phoenix at 9-1. Griffin has a very good matchup against New York at 8,900. Julius Randle, if AD is back, you have to wonder, but Mirotic now gone, so usage-wise, not sure how all that shakes out. Lauri Markkanen, I would take the center against Brooklyn always, but I'm not sure who's playing the actual 5 here, if Lopez is in or not. And then you get down to like someone like a Marvin Bagley the third at 6,200. What do you got? Who are some of the names that maybe we haven't talked about yet that you find at least a bit intriguing?
Markkanen might be one of my favorite plays on the entire slate. I mean, Parker's gone, and I'm. This isn't to say that Jabari Parker was playing extended minutes. No, but he was still another body if needed. He's gone. Bobby Portis is gone. I don't see Robin Lopez playing. I don't think that would. I'm trying to really look to see if there's anything here that would indicate whether he plays or not. Even if he does, Lauri Markkanen is definitely going to get run at the 5, and that's what I love. You know how I feel about fours that get extended minutes at the 5.
Yep.
Like that's a huge positive, a huge plus. And look, I've been very high on Markkanen lately, and it's not like I've done any special analysis here. One, he's playing very consistent minutes, 38, 39, 40 minutes in close games. So that's number one. Number two, he might not be a monster usage player, but you're looking at between 15, 16 or so shots every game. But the most important factor when it comes to Markkanen, and he's getting to the line at a decent rate, but the most important factor outside of the three-point shooting, the scoring, the minutes, is his rebounding has been stellar. And Markkanen, it's not like this guy was necessarily known as this spectacular rebounder. No, but man, he's rebounding so well. And now if you put him at the 5, I would only expect that to become that much more enhanced.
Sure.
I think Markkanen, I think Markkanen's rebounding totals have the potential to go even higher, which is it's crazy, right? Who would think that would be the case? I do think it's the case. And man, getting him at center, even if Lopez plays, you're not going to get more than like, I don't know, maybe 24 minutes from Lopez. He got 29 last game, but if a buyout's imminent, it's hard to say. And then Felicio, he can get some run. Maybe he does get all the backup 5 minutes. It's possible. But Markkanen played 41 minutes last game with Portis and Parker gone from the team. Not that Parker had played in a few games. Those guys being out and just all the injuries to the small forwards, centers. How does he not get huge minutes here, especially if this game's close? I could see upwards of 38, 40 again against the Brooklyn team that, as you pointed out, defensively against opposing centers has been manhandled all season long, all decade long, really.
What else do you have here at power forward?
Oh, man. We talked Giannis with Davis. I don't know. What are you doing with Davis?
I think you have to believe the coach speak here. If you hear he's going to play a normal allotment of minutes, you take it for what it's worth. I don't think he's cash game viable simply because of the volatility of it, but the upside's there. I'm not somebody who plays MME, but you're talking about exposure to him. I think you have plenty of exposure to him because of the upside in this matchup. I think you have to.
Fair enough. Some really interesting yet sketchy plays. Now, Julius Randle being one. Does Randle play off the bench again, or do we get him back into the starting lineup? I would think that he starts, but I don't know. He played 31 minutes off the bench, though, and if he does come off the bench, I actually don't hate it because he's going to see more staggered minutes with Davis, and if he gets up to 30, 32 minutes again, that's perfectly fine against the Minnesota team that is really defensively in that front court no good. And then Bobby Portis. What do we do with Bobby Portis?
Sure.
Because we knew that his minutes were always in flux. Boylan, I don't even think he knew what to do with him. But you traded for him. Do you get him in there? And no Otto Porter either. Scott Brooks has been playing really small lately. Does he decide to go a little bit bigger? Not to say it's necessary against Cleveland, but does that happen? Or do we see him? Like, I think backup center minutes, Mahimi probably doesn't get much at all, if anything. And then Portis gets those. Does Portis get minutes at the 4? If he plays, 28 minutes here, wow, what a spot. And it's not crazy to say, yeah, we'll cut Jeff Green minutes down to like the mid to low 30s. Otto Porter's gone. There are ways to make this work, but will they use Jabari Parker? So many questions here, Dan, that it makes it really difficult to answer. So, and then Marvin Bagley, I love that he's seeing more minutes. I don't like the matchup, but he's a good enough player to warrant some attention, especially if we find out that Portis, is not going to play or expected to be eased into things. That could be an issue. If you're looking for value, I know we got to give one or two guys, even if it's ugly. Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber, neither are guys that are going to be, you're not going to be encouraged by rostering them, but Kleber played 29 minutes last game, 27-29 over his last 3. That's pretty solid. Pace-up matchup, no issues with that. You're still getting him cheap. And then Dwight Powell's minutes have been up too. I actually like Powell a little bit more here. Both have power forward eligibility. And I think from a ceiling standpoint, Powell gives you a little bit more. And on a per minute basis, he is a +1 per minute guy on the season. Kleber is also, or no, I'm sorry, he's down. He's less than a per minute. But it's hard to say because he's averaged more playing time than Powell. But hey, if you need them, they're there. It's just hopefully you don't.
Yeah, I think you're right with this Wizards question. How they integrate Portis and Parker is not integral to this slate, but is a very intriguing part of this slate as we go forward. Especially Jeff Green is intriguing there too, of how that all shakes out. It's funny, you can't trust ESPN.com often, and their depth chart is a mess for the Wizards. So pretty impressive to see Jeff Green not listed at all on their depth chart. So.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's not. Bobby Portis is listed as the starting power forward. Jabari Parker as the backup power forward. No Jeff Green anywhere on the depth chart. But nonetheless, and what do they do with some of these older veterans? I know they want to re-sign Ariza. They've talked about potentially buying him out, and I know he was rumored to be traded to the Lakers. But how do they go about their buyouts and whether or not they release some of these veterans to go sign with teams who are making a run at the playoffs? All right, let's close it out with center, where obviously we have some top-end talent. You have Anthony Davis at 11-2, Embiid against Jokic at 10-6, Jokic on the other side at 10-4. Karl-Anthony Towns against New Orleans at 10K flat. Andre Drummond against the Knicks seems to be in a prime spot at 8,600. And then you do have the likes of Hassan Whiteside, DeMarcus Cousins at sub 10K price points in very, very good matchups. Wondering where you're going first here at center.
Yeah, since he's eligible at power forward and center, I figured I would mention this here. Teams, and I read this on the Detroit Bad Boys. It's the SB Nation. You know, every team has their page, or blog or site, whatever you want to call it. But Blake Griffin has really had a solid season, but there's also a problem here because opposing teams have found ways to overload on Blake defensively, and it is a big issue. I mean, their offense this year has been stagnant. It's 25th in the league, true shooting 29th, 3-point percentage 30th, assists per game 26th. Really not good, and a lot of that makes sense. So it's a good article, by the way. Like I said, DetroitBadBoys.com. It's teams are finding creative defenses against Blake or something like that. But here it says, you get the ball, the clear out, get the ball to Blake, get out of his way. That's what you want to do. ISO, but no, teams basically just are refusing to get out of his way. They're just kind of standing in front of him, so he can't get to the rim, and then he's forced to take bad shots. And you've seen this a whole lot. So you got the double teams. You're making it hard for him to even get passes off, and you're not letting him get to the rim. Is this something that all teams are going to deploy against Griffin? It's possible. Against the Knicks, I don't know if they can, and I still have interest here. But he's strictly a tournament play for me, just because he's been unreliable enough from his floor is a bit concerning, and recently teams really have made his life a lot more difficult. So on a slate where we have plenty of options in 8, 9, 10K range, I probably get away from Blake here. Aside from that, at the top, it's always deep, especially when you have 8 games. Jokic against Philly, obviously love this spot for him. I think there's really no reason not to like him here. Karl-Anthony Towns, 10K flat against New Orleans, another strong spot. He disappointed yesterday, though. And then Drummond on FanDuel is 10K, but he's 86 on DraftKings, facing the New York Knicks, Dan.
Yep.
I mean, look, you're a Knicks guy. First of all, I'm really surprised that Enes Kanter is still – did they actually buy him out like he wanted?
I think it's – yeah. No, I think they bought him out late Thursday afternoon, early evening, yeah.
Anyway, look at the front court that Drummond's going up against. Yes, you have DeAndre Jordan, but I really don't see that hurting him all that much. And DeAndre Jordan isn't playing huge minutes in the 2 games that he's played with them already. Does DeAndre play like 28 minutes? Even so, Drummond at 8,600. This is a price point that I'm very much willing to get on board with. Another one questionable because not his status, but the play because it's against the Warriors.
Yep.
DeAndre Ayton is down to 6,500. I mean, that's hard to overlook. He faced Utah last game. Shot 19 times, 20 points, 9 rebounds, 31 fantasy points in 30 minutes, and that was a blowout. He would have played more. But with Golden State, yes, it's tough. He's actually played really well against them this year, averaging 23 and 12 through 2 meetings, averaging 33 minutes. He's not getting the same blowout run he did as before, but still, if we're projecting him for 32, I have him at 33 minutes, then 6,500 to me is too much of a discount to overlook. One more guy. I want your take on this because he either wins you tournaments or he loses them for you. Hassan Whiteside is 6,800, and I'll tell you straight up, I love him here. I absolutely love him. If it backfires, so be it. But I love Hassan Whiteside, 6,800 against the Kings team that allows more rebounds to opposing centers than any team, a ton of block shots, and a decent amount of scoring. He's 6,800. He's played 30-plus in 2 straight games. I'm willing to risk that he will play it again against this big front court and take my chances.
You have to like the last 2 games, getting 30-plus minutes, and you have to like the rebounding numbers. I think that's where it comes down to. And someone like Whiteside, I think the struggle often is projecting blocks, right? So if you can get him on a 4-block game with a double-double, the upside becomes immense, no blocks, and it's just sort of a pedestrian outing. Price point's really nice. first run through tonight before we started recording, Whiteside, somebody I sort of moved to the side to do a bit more research on. I don't know that I'll have him on FanDuel at first glance. I'd rather pay up a little bit more and get one of the higher end centers for cash game lineups, but Whiteside's definitely somebody in the mix for me on Friday.
Yeah, man, he has to be. They're allowing the fourth most blocks to opposing centers this year, and they're also allowing the most rebounds. The two things that he does extraordinarily well. So while they're only allowing like the 15th or less than that, they're not allowing a ton of scoring to centers. The way he scores is he's going to manufacture those points regardless. If he's out there, man, I think it's tough to get away from Whiteside. Obviously in tournaments, yes. But I just think across the board in all contests, even in cash, I don't know how opposed I'd be to it. It's probably not necessary. But, man, yes, he could play and 6,800, you'd be like, God, why did I pay that much?
Yep.
Or he plays and you're like, how is he only 6,800? You know what I mean? And that's a big thing here. If you're looking for value, Ed Davis is always a guy that when there isn't a lot of value at the position, I'm willing to run out there. If he plays 20-plus minutes, there's a good chance he gives you 30 fantasy points, and you can't say that for a lot of $3,600 players. I'll let you close it out here with a guy who you've talked about quite a bit this season. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Jared Allen here going up against the Chicago Bulls? Minutes are kind of all over the place, but he is 5K flat. This is the cheapest he's been on DraftKings all season long, and on FanDuel he is sitting at 6K. He actually came up, but 5K flat on DraftKings. Is it cheap enough for you to go back to the well?
It is. I think he reminds me, and I know he's on the same team, but he's sort of Fareed for me. It's an energy guy, somebody who has the upside from a peripheral stat department. I'm not expecting him to give me a ton of points, but from rebounds, blocks, steals, assists, he's in the mix on everything. So it's just the minutes with Atkinson right now. And this team's winning, so I can't really begrudge them there. But I like Allen at that price point at 5K. I don't know. I really, really would like to be on Towns or Jokic or Embiid, one of these three at the top end. I just think there is upside for all three of them, even at their price points. But depending on how some of these minutes shake out, I could see playing Whiteside and Allen. I could see moving my way down there to get some cheaper options at center and seeing if I have to pay up at shooting guard and small forward simply because of what's available to me. He wasn't the first guy off the page, though. Whiteside was that one guy who I thought at the cheaper end of the spectrum would be in the mix for me pretty substantially on this slate.
Not only are the Kings bad against centers, but it's tough to say if Spoelstra even coaches like this anymore. But they run a big front court, so that's a check in the plus box. And not only do they run a big front court composed of, Cully Stein, Bagley, Giles, they have plenty of guys that they can run here. They also play at a super fast pace. On the season, the Kings are playing at the second fastest pace in the entire league, and Miami plays third fastest pace in the league, 104 possessions per 48. Meanwhile, the Miami Heat are down at 25th. So a big pace-up spot, too. More rebounding, shot blocking, scoring opportunities for Hassan Whiteside.
And I don't think I'll be in on him here, but someone like Mitchell Robinson has seen a ton of work, pick and roll, lobs. I think 95% of his shots are within 3 feet of the rim, or some insane stat in that regard. Are pick and roll stats?
Like me to tell you?
Well, I have that question also. Are pick and roll stats still available on NBA.com? Are you still looking at those?
No,
They're not?
You
Okay.
Can't get play type data on there. You can find it, but it's kind of been a pain in the ass. And the way I'm not. Some people have reached out to me with it, so I have some of it. But
we're just wondering how the Pistons had been on the year, especially Drummond. But
if your question is right now, could I just pull it up and tell you? No, I couldn't.
Got it.
But yes, 71% of his shots from within. Or I'm sorry, no, from within 3 feet. Wow, 50%.
Oh, it seems a lot lower than I thought it was.
50% from within 3 feet. It's actually the most over the past couple of years. But then keep in mind, 84% of his shots are from. No, it's got to be more than that. 84% of his shots are from within 10 feet of the rim.
Okay. All right. So that might have been the number I had heard. And obviously a little bit of hyperbole on my part. But,
sorry, 88%.
Yeah. Okay. So
it's a lot.
Intrigued by Robinson as the year goes on, as the Knicks go to him more and more. I know they have DeAndre Jordan, but I think as his price point stays below 4,500, there are some double upsides in his future, simply on athleticism and the way the Knicks will run him out there. But let's close it out. You mentioned the 10K or above challenge before. Well, not specifically about who I'm going to ask you about, but that there are these certain players above 10K: Towns, Jokic, Embiid, and AD. If you had to start your lineup construct, oh no, that's all only centers. I missed that. Giannis, AD, Embiid, Jokic, and Towns. I assume it's Giannis, but beyond that, top five, who are you starting your lineup construction with?
Oh, I guess what if I don't play any of these guys with that heavy? But I think you can.
That's more than reasonable on this slate, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the value's there. I think you should be able to. Probably got to go Giannis here. But I got, below 10, obviously Jokic is a great play. Davis in tournaments, that if Davis plays 38 minutes, it's just so tough to believe that he would. I mean, if they need him to play minutes, the league's telling him to play minutes. Don't you think 30 is a lot more realistic than the 38, 39, the league leading minutes he was playing before all of this transpired?
I'm confused about how this marriage will move forward. Like, this feels like
it's hard to say.
This feels like dad was caught cheating. Mom has said, "Listen, you can stay in the house, just don't touch me." Like this is what it feels like. But hey, sometimes people reconcile and they move on with their marriages. Maybe not a direct analogy, but I felt like it was close enough.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I don't know what to expect here. I really don't, but I think you're right. Tournament play makes sense. And if we hear word that he's going to be playing normal allotment, you take it for what it's worth and have some tournament upside. First blush, as we go through this, balanced lineup feels about right. Or at least more so balanced lineup than I typically would.
And by balance, like, we're not saying play all guys in the 6K range.
Right. It's not a bunch of 6.2 guys. Right.
Right. And I mean, I really like Giannis. Jokic too. Towns as well. All of them above 10K. But Doncic is 9,500. Really, really like that. You've got Drummond at 86 if you're looking for some balance there. Simmons at 84. Given now
Beal at 88, I like a lot.
Yep.
I know it's expensive
Russell,
for him, but yeah.
Yeah, Russell. We're through the whole slate now, so I
Marking
can
in at 7K, yeah.
Yep. I can say that that Simmons probably a little less appealing now that we've gotten through everyone. But right, Markkanen, Levine, Whiteside, throw him into the mix as well. Bledsoe with no Middleton. The list goes on. There really is a lot in the 6, 7, 8K range, but also a lot on that top shelf as well. Roster construction is going to be pretty fun building lineups tonight.
Yeah, lots of options and lots of ways to go. Always find Dave over on Osmo.com by using the promo code EARLYBIRD. EARLYBIRD, one word. You can get 50% off your first month. Also, don't forget to leave a comment about which team you think made out the best on the trade deadline and why. You can leave that over on YouTube. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. You will be entered to win a 1-year annual subscription to Osmo.com worth about $700. You know where you can find Dave. You can find him on Twitter at Lofty_D, LOUGHY_D. Funny thing is, he doesn't tweet often, but you can still find him there. You find him on Sirius XM, Sirius.
I tweet.
You don't tweet all that often.
I tweet like 4 times a day, 3 times a day.
You're efficient. You're efficient with your tweets.
Yeah, with my own original thoughts. But no, I'm not pounding out 100 tweets a day. No.
Right. You find him on Sirius 210, XM 87. What times are you on these days over on the Sirius?
Saturday, Sunday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. And we got a lot of great shows coming up. By the way, I want to get you on for some baseball talk soon.
I'm in.
Possibly this weekend if you can do it.
I'll be around. I'm always
put you on the spot. Can't say no while the show's done.
Exactly. And you find me on Twitter at Dan Stravert. Find Osmo at Osmo_com on Twitter. And as I said, don't forget, leave a comment and get entered in to win a free annual subscription to Osmo.com. You've been listening to the DFS Early Bird. You get Adam and EMAC tomorrow morning, presented by Osmo.com.